Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a bonus episode here this week of The Monster's Den. It's all about the big G in this quick little review episode. Godzilla Minus One. Have you seen it? Have you seen it? We've seen it. Craig Kaminski's in the house. Davy Gallagher, Chris Allo, and Jamie Laszlo. I am Pete Pardo. We have all seen the film over the last week. We are very excited to talk about it. And it is now, as Craig was just telling us, or one of you guys was saying, that is the #1 film in the country right now here in the States.
Beat Beyonce.
Who would have thunk that, right?
Crazy.
Who would have thunk that? This is the first Toho film, Godzilla film, since Shin Godzilla, which I'm not a huge fan of. I also went into this film thinking, reading enough about it, it's kind of like a reboot of the very original Godzilla, which originally I was kind of not really all that enthused about because, we already have that great film. It's like, let's kind of do something different. But I was pleasantly surprised. Let's see. Who was the last person to see it?
I saw it on Tuesday.
Yeah, I saw it last Friday.
Sunday, I think.
Friday.
I saw mine Sunday. So, all right, Chris, since you just saw it on Tuesday, your thoughts on Godzilla Minus One? I still don't get the title, but whatever.
Yeah. I see. I took it as it's like the original Godzilla, but before then.
Yeah.
So that's where I have no idea. In my head, that's where I came up with the -1.
E -1, G -1.
Yeah. But like you said, Pete, I couldn't agree more. I saw Shin Godzilla opening night in New York, and I fucking hated it with the googly-eyed fucking thing, and he had all these superpowers, and I hated it. And I didn't really like Godzilla King of the Monsters or Godzilla versus Kong, so I went in with super low expectations, and holy shit, I was knocked out of my seat. I was completely blown away. This is an unbelievable movie. After I saw it, I said, if this movie isn't nominated for an Oscar for Best Foreign Film, there is no justice in this world. I'm like, this is an amazing movie. I think the only thing that will hold it back is that it is subtitled. Like, perfect example, my wife would love this movie because it has such heart. She will not sit through a subtitled movie. I have lots of friends who I would absolutely drag to this movie because they would love it. They will not sit through subtitled movies. So I think that's the one thing that will hold this movie back. But it's one of those movies, like, it's got everything. It's a PTSD post-war drama. It's a love story. It's a revenge story, all wrapped up inside a giant monster movie. I'm like, it hits all the bases. This is probably the only Godzilla movie that I've ever seen where I was emotionally invested in the human characters. 100%. I wanted to know what their story was, and, not to be a dick, but to all those people that are like, I can only go to a movie if somebody on the screen looks like me. That is complete bullshit, because these people were Japanese. They spoke Japanese. They didn't look like me. They didn't sound like me, but I 100% was invested in their story and wanted to see what was going to happen with them. Godzilla, I thought, looked really good. There was a couple shots where the CGI was a bit wonky.
Yeah,
of course, being
boxy,
traditionalist,
right? Yeah.
like, it was really when he moved his head a couple times. I was like, but for the most part, it was very good. I gotta say, I think this was the scariest Godzilla I've ever seen. There was a few scenes, particularly when guys are in the boat, kind of reminded me of Jaws. Yeah. A few guys in this old rickety fucking boat, and they're fighting Godzilla like crazy.
They even shoot something in his mouth, don't they?
Yeah.
But overall, like, I was shocked. A couple times I got choked up. I'm like, what this is a fucking Godzilla movie? I'm like, this movie's amazing. So I couldn't give it highest enough recommendations. And exactly as we all just said to Dan Brown, where he's like, I'll wait for it streaming. No, this is a movie you need to see on the big screen. I would love to see it in an IMAX or a 4DX if possible. I know it was supposed to end its theatrical run December 7th, but now I just heard they just extended it a week, and who knows, maybe they'll keep it going farther. But I really, really enjoyed it. Was completely shocked at how much I enjoyed it. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie in the theater and liked it this much.
In my theater, it got the first standing ovation of a film that I've seen since I think Avengers, the second Thanos film.
100%, Pete. Excellent point. My wife Denise she always says, "Oh, well, in the '70s, movie ended, everybody would clap," and I'm like, "Listen, I was a kid in the '70s. Only time I remember that was Star Wars, and in recent years, Pete, 100%." The last one or two Avengers movies. But yes, this movie, as soon as the credit rolls, everybody was fucking clapping and cheering. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I've never seen an audience cheer for a movie at the end.
Wow.
Oh,
Doesn't
wow.
happen here. Doesn't happen.
It happens. It's
Did they
pretty
do it in
amazing.
your theater?
Sorry?
Did they do it when you saw it?
Not a kind of
Still haven't.
applause, but more of
Okay.
a kind of like, geez, there was a kind of buzz. It was like you could almost feel sounds a bit like Avengers almost. At the end of a great movie, there's just this energy where everybody's like, like everybody had that. Like
When I saw the Avengers, people clapped during the movie several times. It was like a rock concert.
And that's what something like this or Avenger, any kind of art really should do. It should kind of bring these big emotions out if that's the intent. Yeah. And Chris is right. This is maybe the first Godzilla film that's ever really done that.
Yeah,
against your will.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you hit the nail on the head. This is honestly, I don't know if I've ever given a shit about the human part of any Godzilla movie like this. I really, really cared for these characters. Not to give too much away, but you got the main guy who's got the PSTD. He's like been labeled a coward in the army, and just so everybody knows, this takes place right after World War II. This is post-war Japan. Right after that. So that's kind of similar to the first film, probably a little bit earlier. And you follow this main character through his journey, and he's and then he meets up with this young girl, and she's got a little baby, and the baby's not even hers, and they create this kind of weird little family together, and you get to know these three and all the other supporting characters, and you really care about them. You want to know more about them. And when does that ever happen in a Godzilla movie? Usually it's just like, just get to the giant monsters already.
Get to the
I don't
fight
give a
scene
shit about these people, right? Not in this one. It's almost like Godzilla's like an afterthought in his own movie, and that's okay.
And even like the military people in it, and in so many movies, you got the asshole general who's like chomping a cigar, who wants to go in there and blow them up, or whatever. Everyone is pretty likable. The scientist character. I mean, even at one point, when he comes up with the idea to vanquish Godzilla, one of the other guys says, well, that's not going to work. And it almost reminds you of Jaws, where Hooper says, do you have any other suggestions? It's like where he's trying to do with that. You empathize with all the characters. The little girl is adorable. Once she grows up a little bit and is walking around, and as you said, you're just invested with all the characters, and you're not once rooting for Godzilla in the movie. But although he's not necessarily evil, he's just a force of nature. He just is, and they don't give any sort of backstory as to
which I liked.
With nuclear testing and blah blah blah. He shows up quick. What, 5-10 minutes into the movie, and there he is. It's not like the 2014 Godzilla movie where it's like you're waiting for him to show up, and then you see him for the tail end.
And then as you're watching him, the door's shut. As it's
I mean, not anything like that. Just thoroughly enjoyable. I saw the movie in 4DX, and as Chris said, knocked out of your seat. I was literally almost knocked out of my seat several times. I've never seen a movie in 4DX before, so this was my first experience, and holy shit, some of those parts where you're just rocking and wind hitting you and things. It was a lot of fun. And just one thing, when Godzilla goes to, they refer to it as a heat ray, his atomic breath, and where he's on landfall. They actually, I filmed it and had sent it to you guys, and I've watched it a bunch of times, where they show Godzilla actually like you see him like inhaling, and air is going in, and as he's doing that, the spikes on his back go out, and then bright colored, and then just like you're loading a fucking cannon, they go right back in, and boom, he just shoots out the breath. I mean, that is really cool to see, especially on on a big screen in 40x. I'm sure in IMAX it would be a real sight to see. But I love that whenever he would, the handful of times that he uses his breath, how it's like a cannon going off, like you're literally loading a gun to explode.
And the fact they don't overuse it, I think, makes it all the more impactful
Yes.
every time
Yeah.
they do.
They show that it takes a lot out, because they show that it takes a lot out of him, that he's not fully making right. The line he has to recharge.
Yeah.
This is one of the most vulnerable Godzillas. He's still extremely powerful, but there's a sense that he's defeatable. In 2016 for Shin Godzilla, the best they can do is freeze him. They just cannot destroy this beast. In the Monsterverse, he goes through tanks and he goes through ships, big battleships, as if they're nothing. In this, he kind of struggles. He doesn't go through it like butter. He has to kind of jump on it and then start ripping it to shreds and things. He's not as powerful as some Godzillas, and that really works. There's a great part where he's trying to tear a building down, and that's taking too long, so he just swings the tail round and takes it down in one big, as if he's going, oh, fuck this. So it's a more, not human Godzilla, obviously, but a more less highly charged, less ridiculously over the top Godzilla, because they're not needing to worry about Monsterverse stuff. They can just make this a standalone universe. If they turn it into anything, we're not going to go into where the end takes us, if it's spoiler worthy or not. But generally, I think, as Chris said, the characters are the star of this thing, which you've never been able to say in a Godzilla film. The closest, I think, is the original, with Dr. Shirazawa and that little triad that they had in that. And that's actually a bit similar to the relationships here. And the film that I think this most resembles it of the Godzilla series is Raids Again. I think there's beats.
Second film, yep, exactly, 100%. Yeah. I agree with that, yeah.
But again, nothing, although we're not doing spoilers, there's nothing in this that's going to make you go, oh, wow. There's no massive moment that's a surprise on paper if you just read it. But you're so invested in the characters that you just don't want to know. You wouldn't want to know in advance, because you will be invested in these people who you don't know at the start. By the end, you will really want to hope that everything works out for these 3, 4, if you can. I think I love the side character, the scientist. I think he's one of the most fun characters.
I'm glad they gave him a wacky hairdo too.
Yeah.
I was worried about that. I thought, are they going to make him the stupid character? They don't do that. They just give him a kind of Einstein haircut, because why not? It makes sense.
All those guys on the boat, it's like they have, this was and it's the only job that they could get, because Japan is so war torn that they have to go out and search for mines in the ocean.
Yeah.
This was the only work that they could get. And you see the conditions that the main character is living in, with the woman and the baby. They're sleeping on the floor. I mean, it just looks like a apocalypse town, which I guess in a sense that it was at the time.
Anybody else love when they show Godzilla swimming through the water, chasing after the boat?
Oh yeah, that looks really cool.
And is barely above, and then you see the whole
those parts, Pete, kind of reminded me of Jaws.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There was Jaws. There was a bit of Dunkirk in it. There was, but none of it feels like they've ripped off anything. It just feels like this is a guy who's seen movies,
And you don't need to have any prior knowledge of Godzilla.
Nope.
70 years worth of Godzilla movies. Anyone who has zero knowledge can walk into this movie and enjoy it, and because there's no senseless backstory given, and it's just something that you can enjoy right off the bat. You don't, yeah.
The
I asked my
thing-
wife if she wanted to go, and of course she said, "Why would I do that?" And you know what? I knew this movie. I was on board with the trailer. When I saw the trailer, I said, "They're bringing the horror back into Godzilla." I can tell. I'm on board, man. So I went opening Friday, and I didn't see it in 4DX, but I did have a crying baby behind me.
Oh man.
It wasn't really crying, but there was a lot of oh, who does that? If I would have saw them in front of me, for Godzilla, I would have said I'll come back another time. I swear to God, I would have done it. But anyways, I think -1 I read has to do with the state that Japan was at the time. Like they're in so bad condition, they're not even at 0, they're at -1, with the wreckage and everything. I don't know. I love the color tone in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not bright, it's not shiny, it's not trying to be flashy. It's in color, but it looks old. It's
Good point.
It blends into the first Godzilla movie with the black and white into this dingy color type thing. And I've been saying for years, with these new Hollywood Godzilla movies that really don't do anything for me. I said, why can't, and going back to the Ferris Bueller one in 98, I've been saying for a while, instead of trying to make a good Godzilla movie, why can't somebody just try to make a really good movie that happens to have Godzilla in it?
Yeah, that's what they did.
Why can't that?
That's what
Why
this
is this
yeah.
so difficult? And these guys did it. They gave me exactly what I wanted. And I tell you what, I told you on our Secret Satan show, it's hard for me to give out 4 stars right off the bat. I gave this 4 stars right off the bat. Yeah. And when it was over, I could tell people wanted to, like one guy wanted to get the clapping going, but it didn't fell flat. So
design wise, I think this was quite influenced by the Hollywood ones, though, because it looks more like the 2014 Godzilla than any Toho one.
He's big,
Yeah,
big,
it's
but
not got the
maybe the way he looks.
Shin Godzilla is much more stand up, much more erect, if you will,
Yeah.
and it looks more traditional Godzilla because it's a guy in a costume originally. So the last Toho one looked like that. This one doesn't. This one does look more creature-like because they knew
to me,
it
it reminded me of the Godzillas from Japan from like the late 90s. Yeah, it was like 2014 Godzilla had like elephant legs, and this one had like defined legs and claws on his
sharp
his
teeth.
toes.
Yeah.
Shape-wise, it's very 2014 though. It's very the hunchback and everything much more than stand-up shape, which
they
works
made him
scary because they
scary
knew
looking.
that's what they were going for. And the scenes of him, the only thing I kind of miss is in Shin Godzilla, they had a wonderful idea, which I don't really miss it because we had it in that film, of filming Godzilla from so far away looks amazing when he's next to skyscrapers and things. So there was a greater sense of scale in that film, I think, when you see Godzilla, which I don't think you always get in this. I think sometimes the close-ups are to cut the budget down a little bit and not have to render too much. But that's such a small criticism because the film itself is just, it's not about
Davey,
Godzilla.
Is it me or, and I don't know everything about Godzilla for sure, but did it seem like he was not as big as in other movies, which again I liked it,
exactly, not as big,
the
not
very
as
first
powerful,
scene,
yeah.
the very first scene in the beginning, you could tell that he was not fully grown because
Right.
he was taking some damage, and even though it was on an island, there's no tall buildings for scale. You could tell in comparison to the parked airplanes and things like that were there, that he was not as big. And then when they encounter him later, he was again, I don't think fully grown, but bigger than he was the first time.
Right.
And they
It's
mentioned
like,
the characters mentioned that too.
Yeah.
It's like to go into comic book geezers mode, I guess. It's like John Byrne's Superman in the 80s trying to bring the powers down so that he's more
Yes.
relatable and it's more achievable rather than always having to come up with something even grander to destroy him. Because this one, there's shades of that original in terms of we can do this, we don't need some magic there's no space creature going to come and rescue you. Man can do this, and women can do this. We can't, if we all work together, there's a way around this.
And it's lower tech since it takes place in the 40s that they don't
And how
have,
interesting is that too? It's the first
yeah.
ever, what is this, the 34th Godzilla film, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the first ever one set in the past, the first ever.
Yeah.
Which,
And
And
it's
I tell
amazing,
you what,
right?
how they take Godzilla down finally at the end. Hollywood would have fucked that up, man. They would have made it goofy as hell. You would have seen a plane flying in his belly, around his asshole.
And
You would have
listen,
seen
Jamie,
it so stupid. The way they did it, boom.
And listen, while I was watching it, again, not to be that guy, but you just said it. If Hollywood made this movie and still set it in Japan and still set it in 1947, there would have been a black woman and an Indian guy and a guy in a wheelchair and all this other stuff because, everybody's got to be so diverse. But no, this was a Japanese movie starring Japanese people. And they had to overcome an unbelievable obstacle. And it's a great, simple story. There's no political agenda behind it. There's no message behind it. It's just entertainment, which again, Hollywood seems to have forgotten in recent years.
Yep.
it could easily have been political as well, with the relationship of post-war Japan and America. It could very easily have turned into some kind of commentary on the who would have been the Eisenhower era and parallels to today in foreign affairs and things. And then it would be dated in 20 years and nobody would really get the references. One of the things about Shin Godzilla, it's a response to the 2011 nuclear meltdowns in Japan. It's a kind of commentary on that. Barely anyone outside Japan remembers that now, so that feels less relevant. So we all remember obviously Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so you'll never forget the allegory in the first film. But any film after that really just went for the entertainment value. And this is the first time where I think they've managed to get the serious tone, the horrific tone, and the heart. Is it the only Godzilla film since the first that's had total heart? I can't think of any really that I've cared.
And no funny one-liners to lighten shit up.
No daft characters.
I never smiled during this movie.
There's a few like little haha parts, I think, but not out and out.
Yeah, no like Avengers type.
No.
Yeah, there's no Robert Downey Jr. quips or something. Yeah. But yeah, Raids again would be the parallel, I'd say, if people like that Godzilla film. This is the one for them.
Yeah, fantastic. I loved it.
So my question for the panel, obviously this is a hit. I'm sure Toho is going to do a sequel. Do you think they bring in a monster, and if so, which one for the sequel?
To me,
because when Shin Godzilla came out, they had said, "Oh yeah, we're restarting the monster universe. We're doing them all, Rodan, Mothra." But then nobody liked Shin Godzilla, so they didn't make another one.
Well, no, that made money, and it won Best Picture at the Japanese Academy Awards.
But there was no sequel, so it couldn't have done that great.
But it's the first time a Godzilla film's ever done that. So I mean, it was popular, but it wasn't critical. It wasn't fandom.
It wasn't number one movie in America and being subtitled.
No, it's hard to. I hope they don't make it.
Neither were any of the rest of them. So that's Beyonce. You said. I mean, that's not exactly competition in terms of box office, is it? Beyonce.
Yeah, have you ever been to America?
Beyonce's pretty popular.
Come on, and she's not Marvels. She's not Star Wars. I mean, how much money is that movie really going to make? The Beyonce film. What's the ceiling for that?
I mean,
it's not subtitled, and it's a pop princess.
Yeah, I mean, plus I believe this is the most successful foreign movie now of all time, as far as box office.
Already
foreign meaning subtitled. Yeah,
I don't
already.
know about that. I mean, like,
You think life is
I believe
beautiful?
I mean,
at
like,
least from Japan anyway.
well, I was gonna say like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That made like
Yeah,
I thought
that was
Crouching
huge.
Tiger or
This is
Was
limited
that
access.
was that dubbed or was it subtitled?
that was all in
both
China. That was all
eventually,
Man-
but
that was
in
all in
time probably.
Mandarin. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
But
to
no, I
answer your
mean,
question, Chris, if they do a sequel, which I can't imagine they wouldn't, do you have to bring in another monster?
I don't
You don't
want
have to, but
Because here's the thing. It's already been said in this film that, you know, Godzilla is an unstoppable monster. He's not good Godzilla, not going to save mankind, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. They've already set that up. So do you bring in another monster that becomes that kind of fighting for mankind against Godzilla?
that's exactly what I thought. Thinking wrestling, Pete, I thought you bring in Ghidra, but Ghidra is the baby face and Godzilla stays the heel.
Or something that's a common enemy to
All I know is I don't
man
want to see
and to
Mothra again
Godzilla.
in that
And-
role. I don't want to see
Yeah,
Mothra. I want to see someone
I
else.
I think if you're Toho, you'd be smart to not do that, but just try and do something in this kind of
Create a new
style
monster.
with other monsters as separate movies. Let's have a new Mothra film, but it's not connected to this.
Well, or in an effort to bring the biological nature of Japan back in this, they make Biollante and have him come
Or
back.
Hedorah, the smog monster.
And, yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
How bad was smog in Japan in the 1950s? I have no idea,
yeah,
but
they're
Well,
yeah,
we just got Jet Jaguar back in the short film that was released last month, so anything's
Right, yeah.
possible. But yeah, I mean,
we're having to come up with new
problem is
pesticides.
they
so
have
we come
never,
up with
ever-
Megalon, you
they have
know.
never released a film sequel where they don't eventually start to get silly with it. They might go in a good direction, silly, you know, with by the time you get to Godzilla 2000 and Final Wars, they're brilliant fun, but can you really imagine that kind of monster mash in this tone? I can't.
but then again, Davey, who would have thought you would get choked up at a Godzilla movie in 2023? If
I
you
think
told me that a
that'd be
month ago,
more
I'd say, get the
likely-
fuck out of here.
I think that'd be more
I want
likely
to
than
fast
seeing-
forward through the humans and get to the fight scene.
Yeah, give
I
me
think,
the fight scene.
but Chris, great dramas exist. How many great dramas could possibly have King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla in a monster mash? And
I
still
don't
go.
know. I'm willing to take a shot.
Maybe they'll bring
I
Varen
think you
back.
just- I think
and,
you
I was
just-
going to say, you make Rich
Really-
Catino pretty
I
happy
was
to bring
just going to say,
Baron in.
big
There
Rich
you go.
Catino. Jump right into destroy all monsters for the next one. Bring them all back.
I think you just kill the golden goose if you start to do it every time Godzilla's a hit. You just start to throw in all the extras. Just give them.
They
the
got to be
oomph up.
making a sequel though. They're making this much money.
Yeah.
They're making a sequel.
Yeah,
Well,
and it ends with the body coming back to life. And when that did happen at the end, I was like, that is a little too cliche for this movie. That,
Well, I
you
think
know,
at the very-
okay,
there's-
here comes the
there's
body
no-
back. I feel like this movie's too good for that cliche ending.
Jamie, I kind of agreed.
Post-credit scene, no, and I think at the very, very, very end of the movie, you just hear the Godzilla roar.
Yes.
after
Which is at the
credits.
end of everyone as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they used the original roar, which was nice.
Which was very cool. Some of the original music.
Yep, and used
Nice
well
nods.
as well, because sometimes they use the Godzilla march and it's so out of place the way they
Yeah.
use it in some of the other films, but here it's used very well. Because he's not a hero, so why give him a heroic moment with the Godzilla march, which is a heroic theme? It's the end. We weren't going into spoilers, but Jamie said what happens. I don't think it matters that they've done a little bit of a sequel tease, because as Chris said, it's made so much money. If they want to, they can do it anyway. And even if they don't, Godzilla movies always just picked up wherever the hell they wanted anyway. All those 80s movies would find the most tenuous link into the 90s, tenuous link to just restart Godzilla from the last one, or find some mythology from 10 films back and resurrect that for no reason at all, just to try and kickstart it again.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about that. Toho seem pretty smart to me, much smarter than Legendary Pictures, and I'm really enjoying the Monarch TV series. But
I haven't seen that yet.
this just blows that kind of stuff out of the water. It's like that's like Fraggle Rock compared to this. You know, this is as Chris and Jamie both said, this is great drama that just happens to be a Godzilla film. It's not good for or great for a Godzilla film. It's a great film, regardless of whether Godzilla's in it or not. If this was another creature or
that's a great
anything
point.
else, still a great
That's
film.
exactly how I felt when I left the theater. I said that was a great film, and it was a Godzilla film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's a great Godzilla film.
Yeah. It's both.
Now, will everybody be going to see the new King Kong Godzilla movie?
Yes.
Probably, but
I'm
going
everything.
to bring down those expectations, like right into the basement.
There's still that big hole in
Yeah.
Right, and King Kong's got a throne.
It's called the plot hole, Craig.
And a big battle axe, and
it's going to be Son of Kong, and
there's a baby, like an old man Kong.
Yeah, there's Son of Kong. There looks to be a Mecha Kong thing. That would be great. Bring Space Kong into it. Let's go fucking bonk.
I wouldn't Godzilla's running. Godzilla's running.
Yes.
If we can have some really bonkers stuff.
They're not creative enough to come up with a good story with good characters, so they got to have Godzilla run. That's got to get you to get in.
It's funny, Jamie. After I saw the trailer for that Godzilla X Kong, I was like, oh God, if those people, I would love to be in that boardroom after those people saw this movie and looked at each other like, oh fuck. What do we do now?
Isn't it amazing though that Godzilla, it doesn't, pardon the pun, bomb. It just continues to evolve. Again, pardon the pun. But none of these, even the MonsterVerse ones, where the last one didn't do great, the next one doesn't do great. They still keep going. You know, they don't bomb. They don't do the Marvels or Aquaman's going to bomb. Let's be honest, that's going to go.
Yeah,
but none of the Godzillas have done that from Toho or from Legendary Pictures. Even the Matthew Broderick one was a hit. There's just something primal about it that I think resonates with audiences as entertainment, and I think this one's going to really, really hit home for a lot of people who normally wouldn't watch a Godzilla film just through word of mouth.
I can't wait for 4K.
Things like the Rotten Tomato scores.
For sure.
Yeah, they'll see 96% for a Godzilla film. I need to see this.
Laszlo, do you have a Shogun Warrior Godzilla?
Several.
Saw one for $700 a few weeks ago.
Wow. Yeah, I have. There is a new one that's like this big.
Yeah.
That's like $20, but I have the original from '79, and then a couple of years ago they did a reissue where they changed it slightly.
I was a kid, but I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, no,
I had Rodan too.
Yeah, I have Rodan.
That came out in '79.
Yes, I do believe. Christmas 1979. I got the best Christmas ever. I got the Star Wars Death Star playset and the Shogun Warriors Godzilla.
You have a Death Star.
Because I had it, but I thought it came out earlier than that. Because I was going to say,
I thought it was 78.
It wasn't even a Godzilla.
I could be wrong, but
there were no Godzilla films at the time. New, were there? There was only there was Gamera films, but they were only...
they were still reissuing the Godzillas in the theater. They had the Godzilla.
I suppose that would be first run in America.
Cartoon with Godzuki.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just such a fascinating franchise. 70 years in a few weeks, literally, coming to 2024. And it just continues to find new ways to sometimes frustrate, but most of the time just keep you wanting more. Even though a lot of it's crap, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And
I love it. Yeah.
This is the kind of, I don't know, the Skyfall of it, where this far in you think, how's this so bloody good? How's this so bloody good? Yeah. Brilliant. Highest recommendation. I don't do stars, but 5 stars, 10 out of 10, 100%. Go see it. Go see it again.
Go see it. Yeah.
Go see it.
I would like to see it again before it ends its run.
I would too. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I would have loved to have seen it in 4DX with you because
that would have been because I've only seen one 4DX theater, and I did warn Craig ahead of time. I remember when I saw Rogue One in 4DX, and there was a guy in front of me holding a big soda and a big popcorn, and I'm like, oh, that's a rookie mistake. And he's like this in the theater because the seat shakes you the whole time. Were there any smells, Craig? Were there any smells?
Not a whole lot of smell, but there was mist and fog at parts towards the end where his plane is driving, is flying around Godzilla. there was air jets in the seat that were going
blowing on you.
you know,
Does it take
shooting.
you out of the movie at all though? Because of too much.
Again, first time seeing it. So and coupled with that, this was subtitled, but I mean but the action parts were really the only things that where you were moving or whatever. Any boat scene, your seat is kind of like, you know, sort of swaying a little bit. So and I
What's
kept
that run you?
having,
25, 30?
it was
25,
20,
30 a
it was
ticket?
21, and I don't know if that was a matinee pricing or because I saw it at early in the day, but I kept having to I kept like moving in my seat, and I had to keep, you know, getting up because the seats were kind of like pleather, not cloth or anything, and so I kept sliding all the time. And but I would see another film in 4DX, but it really did. The big action scenes just really, you were like in a blender. It was something.
If it does well this weekend, I don't think Toho, or they're not as money grabber like as American studios tend to be and European studios. They're very protectionist when it comes to Godzilla, but you'd imagine that somebody would suggest maybe we should get a dub of this thing out into cinemas pretty fast as well.
Yeah.
That's I agree, Dave, because I really think that's the one thing that's holding this back from just exploding. Like a friend of mine saw it at a theater, my buddy Glenn, and he said it was a family. It was a husband and wife and 3 kids, and like 10 minutes in, they got up and walked out because they didn't realize it was subtitled.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if it was, and I understand why Toho might not want to do a dub, but I think if they did, it would really, you know, blow
you've got the name,
open.
you've got the name recognition, but there is a portion of people who just don't want
Yes.
to read a movie. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're in a kind of bizarre place with dueling Godzillas. It's a bit like the DC
Good point.
universes we're getting. So quite a few people I've spoken to online didn't realize this wasn't part of the MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
They
Excellent
thought
point,
it was.
Davey. When I saw that trailer, I thought the same thing going, are the people going to be confused that this is a different kind of thing? Kind of like how we have we had the Ben Affleck Batman, and then we had the kid from the Twilight movies in the Batman, and they're not the same Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
Not everyone's a nerd. They don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not everybody knows
and
this
it's those people that aren't nerds that make films into big hits, isn't it? The casual audience that you need to kind of turn into a blockbuster.
Yeah, I thought George Clooney was Batman. I watched that Flash movie, and now I don't know what the hell's going on.
And
I remember seeing
Michael Keaton's Batman as well. Yeah,
I remember seeing Rogue One, which came out after Force Awakens, and people were like, "Where's Rey?" Well, this is not the sequel to that one.
That's it.
But not everybody's a nerd, Jamie. Not everybody follows this stuff.
When Batman Begins came out, I remember people saying, "But I thought the Joker killed Bruce Wayne's parents because they only knew Michael Keaton. They didn't know anything else." So yeah, casual audiences, I think, can go into this with no problem whatsoever. You just need to be able to read and have a heart, and you'll be fine.
I agree.
You don't even need to read. Ask the baby behind me. She seemed to enjoy it, I think.
So for those of you watching, let us know what you thought of Godzilla Minus One down in the comments below. And if you haven't seen it yet, hopefully we have intrigued you enough to get out to the theaters before it's gone and experience what we've all enjoyed. And
is this the most glowing review we've ever done for anything?
I think so.
All of us say this is not just good, but absolutely fantastic, stunning, great.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that's
for sure. So cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. 2 weeks from tonight, here on the Monsters Den, we will be ranking the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. So pleasant stuff right before the holidays. So till then, for Jamie Laszlo, Davy Gallagher, Chris Laszlo, and Craig Kaminski, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you real soon here on the Monsters Den. Take care.
Take care, everybody.